All right. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome to From Crystal with Love XO. My name is Crystal Jordan, and I am today's conversation is going to be a little bit complex because I usually do these recaps for Married at First Sight. And if you guys have been watching that, Married at First Sight, I usually have Brenda on and we go through Married at First Sight, which I'm going to get to eventually. But right now, I wanted to talk about something else that's been happening on social media because of another conversation I had on a podcast where I took a lot of heat. And so I wanted to have this conversation on here and include some commentary from something that's just happened recently. So, hey, Naturally Dope. Hey, Blondie, Monique. If you guys can hear me, I'm going to wait a few minutes. Please put an XO in the chat if you're able to hear me, because I really want to get into a really serious conversation on women and what we should expect. You guys know I've been promoting my new book, which is Dear Alpha Female. It's not him, it's you. I thought I had a copy. Oh, I was like, where's my copy? The book is Dear Alpha Female. It's not him, it's you. And that's the back of it right there. So that's been what I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of promotion. I actually have an event tonight. If you are in Atlanta, I would love for you to come out to Sea Salt Restaurant on Glenwood Avenue. I am giving away actually 5 free copies to anyone that comes that is subscribed to my YouTube channel. But I went on a podcast a few weeks, actually about a month ago, titled Hardly Initiated. The guys were great. It's hosted by 2 really intelligent young men. They asked me, was I interested in coming on the show? And I told them yes. And I was coming on the show to talk about the book and to talk about what I learned being a woman that's very career driven and how I needed to find that balance. And so in this conversation, hey twin, in this conversation, I talked about the fact that I thought a lot of times women do things that they don't want to do to impress a man. And in my opinion, I think that is wrong. I got slammed on Instagram, right? Everybody was like, oh my God, she's somebody that doesn't cater to her man. She doesn't understand. And my point was simply that a lot of times women do things that they're not comfortable with. Be it having threesomes, inviting other women in the bed, even staying with men that they know are cheating with them. Trying to make sure that they're doing everything as freaky as possible to keep a man. And my point was not that it's wrong to cater to your man, but rather doing all that does not guarantee that you will keep the man. And most importantly, it suggests that you're not really in touch with yourself. Again, like I said, I took a beating on social. I think I said my first marriage, I was married for 13 years. And I knew all these women in Atlanta that I met when I moved here that were enrolling in head doctor classes and doing all this stuff. And I was thinking, as someone that had been married for 13 years, this, of course you want to be able to please your man, but all the things that you guys are doing is not leading to a husband, and I just thought that was ridiculous. So again, people thought I was crazy. And then this past week, Latarius Woodfield from a podcaster that has an amazing platform on social media, sat down with Da'Naia Jaxn, who you guys may remember is Derrick Jaxn's ex-wife. Now, a few years ago, if you guys remember, let me know in the chat. I want to keep the conversation going. You guys know I love feeding off your energy. So a few years ago, Derrick Jaxn, who was a very popular, I'm not going to say relationship expert. He's someone that talks about relationships on social, and he has a huge audience, over 1 million followers. I've interviewed Derrick Jaxn before at Rolling Out. The video is on my channel. You can look through the videos and see that. And I remember talking to him and thinking like something is weird. It just was weird. He didn't really look me in the eye. He had a lot of really prepackaged answers to things I had to say, and it didn't feel like it was really connecting. So anyway, we were introduced to his wife a few years ago on social when it came out that there were some women that came out and they had been cheating with him. Now, he is someone that speaks to women, panders to them, tells them that they deserve more, which a lot of things he says, I don't I don't disagree with. It's just the energy with which he says it and the way he suggests that women really hold men to the fire. And then it came out that he was actually an example of one of the men that he tells women not to date. Now, this picture is a snapshot from the video of Derrick Jaxn and his wife, Da'Naia. Sorry, this is the picture, right? There's Derrick and Da'Naia. Now, I remember when I saw that, I was very irritated, right? Because you guys, if you've seen Derrick Jaxn online, he is always, his hair, he always has a fresh cut. He's always showing off his body that he obviously spends a lot of time working on. He always shows up looking the best physically. His exterior is always flawless, right? Because that's a big part of him being able to attract the audience that he has. So for him to not extend that same grace and that same flawlessness to his wife and to let her come on with the bonnet, I thought that was very telling. And I understand that she might have felt comfortable, and kudos to her for feeling comfortable, but your man should want you to show up. He knows what the social media streets are like because he masters them, right? So he knew that when women saw her show up that way, it was going to make him look like he was the polished one and she was, kind of homely and the one that was just standing by his side. They were sitting there, she was defending him. They stayed together, and he retained a lot of his platform. I'm surprised that women actually continued to follow him, even after it was very clear that Derrick Jaxn was a fraud. It was very clear that and by fraud, I'm saying that his actions and his words were not in alignment. This is not a personal attack on Derrick Jaxn. However, it is very clear that his words and the things that he preaches are not in alignment with his actions. And if your words are not in alignment in your own home, how dare you have the audacity, the unmitigated gall, as my granny would say, to try to tell other women what to do in their homes with their men when you are doing the same thing, if not worse, to your woman. They stayed together. I'm not one for telling people what to do with their man. She was very defensive of him on social media. She felt attacked. I definitely understand, and I felt bad for her because social media it's an opportunity for people to be mean and hateful and not to have to suffer consequences. We all know that, So anyway, moving forward, fast forward, the couple ended up going through a divorce, even though they decided to stay together then. This was around 2 years ago during COVID. You guys know we were all locked down. All kinds of stuff was happening. Tasha K, I think, got the scoop and was able to share with the public that he was cheating. She talked to one of the girls that he was cheating with. And I felt like the only victim in this situation was Da'Naia. But as many women do, she was fiercely supporting her husband, who was the father of her children. And you can't really get upset with a woman for trying to do what her vows basically defined, right? You got to respect that. So fast forward to 2023, last week, after I have been just attacked on social media because I said that it was wrong for women to stay in situations and do things they weren't comfortable doing. Lateria sits down with Da'Naia and we hear the trauma and the toxicity that was happening in this marriage the entire time. I have 2 clips I'm going to play for you guys. And then I just want to have a real conversation about this because I am doubling down on what I said. I think that, let me start by saying this. There are a lot of women that are okay that are bisexual, right? If you are bisexual and you're open to having other women in your relationship, I can't speak to that because that's not my situation. What I do know is that there are a lot of women that have accepted their man being unfaithful to them, sleeping with other women, allowing other women in their bedrooms, and doing things that are uncomfortable and out of their nature to please their significant other. What I am standing on what I said. If a man loves you, truly loves you, he's not going to ask you to do things that make you feel uncomfortable or are against the nature of who you are, right? Because there's no way you can be happy doing that. I've talked to so many women on a regular basis. And I actually had a friend, which is the conversation I shared with on the Hardly Initiated podcast. This friend told me that her man was going to leave her if she did not have a threesome with him. He said that he had, he needed this in his life. And I told her, I said, he's going to leave you anyway. And people went, a lot of the guys were like, no, you're telling her not to please her man. No, I'm telling her that before you can please anyone else, you have to please yourself. You have to know who you are, and you have to be comfortable with who you are before you do something for someone else. So I'm going to play this clip. I have two clips, like I said, from the conversation with Da'Naia and Latarius, and it is really sad. It's heartbreaking, but it's reality. And I think it's what a lot of women are talking about. It was what I was referring to when I made that comment on the Hardly Initiated podcast. So I'm going to start with this first clip, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. All right.
Did I get myself into, right? And now I'm practicing. Did I get myself into, right? And now I'm practicing toxicity, right? I'm practicing toxic behavior and cycles with holding things in, not talking about it, and then either being passive aggressive or just super aggressive, but nothing in between. And then he has no idea what's going on because he doesn't know what I'm freaking out about.
And what you done seen,
right.
What prompted you to start looking through his phone?
I would always get like a feeling, or he would touch me different, right? So after most rape victims are very sensitive to touch. And so any sign of him touching me, any type of, any different, I'm like, there has to be somebody else. There has to be,
You're
right?
talking about with a change of a touch.
With a change of a touch. There has to be, right? And so I would go snooping around because I'm a snooper. And when you seek, you shall find. That is a true biblical verse. So if you don't believe in the word of God, listen, let me tell you, when you seek, you will find. And when you find, you have to know what to do.
And what's so bad about it, people will find something, but then they won't do nothing about it.
Exactly.
Because they weren't prepared to leave.
And that was me.
All right. There's a lot in that clip. First of all, she's beautiful. How she looked, that woman doesn't even look like the same woman that was sitting next to Derrick with the bonnet on. And I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with the bonnet. I think it has to do with her spirit. She was broken when they were having that conversation initially, and she was doing something that made her feel uncomfortable, but out of the love and admiration and respect she had for her husband, she went along with it. And I first want to say that there are a lot of women are constantly beating each other up. I think we've been taught a lot of times to beat each other up. So a lot of times a woman will say, well, she's being stupid. She's being stupid. And all of us have been stupid at some point in time for a man. And if you haven't been, sis, one day you will be. So I think taking the opportunity to victimize another woman because of what she went through is a toxic behavior that women have learned to perpetuate, and we have to stop that. That's one of the reasons I have this channel, is because I feel like as women, number one, we have to be honest with ourselves. And then number two, we have to allow grace to each other, because, there's no reason that we should be competing against one another or looking at one another different. A lot of times men are able to use that as a way to make women feel like there's an excuse for what they're doing. I'm sure that some of the women that Derrick was cheating with, when they saw that video of Da'Naia and they saw her sitting there looking broken, they probably thought, oh, well, no wonder he doesn't want to be with her. Look how she looks. And that woman is beautiful, but her spirit was broken. And a lot of times when our spirit is broken, when we're broken inside, it shows up outside. I don't care how snatched your waist is, how much makeup you put on. If you're broken inside and you're not happy with the lifestyle that you're doing, it comes through. And you're really not able to show up as your best self. So that's the first thing. This is definitely not to put her down. I think that she's immensely strong for having the courage to come out both times, and for trying to do the right thing. The fact that you are trying to be a good wife and you have unfortunately, coupled with a horrible husband does not mean that you're a bad woman. It does not speak negatively to you. And I think we need to realize that as women and stop saying that each other are stupid for doing the things that we're supposed to do. That makes us a good woman. She's just a good woman. Another thing that I want to address in that clip, after acknowledging that she's a beautiful woman, she's a strong woman, is the fact that she mentioned that she was a rape victim, right? And so she was able to have an instinct and intuition when her husband had been unfaithful and he came back to her. I am thoroughly convinced. I had an amazing conversation with Rebecca Lynn Pope. Rebecca Lynn Pope was the host of Marry Me on OWN, and she and I were on the Portia Bruner show on Fox Soul a few weeks ago for Mother's Day. But I had a conversation with her out in the green room, and we were just talking about how women, usually we know when something is going on, right? That intuition tells us. Now, often when we have been a victim of trauma, such as rape or incest or sexual abuse, our triggers are are heightened even more so because we've experienced trauma, right? Unfortunately, a lot of women have experienced trauma. You guys, I don't know if everyone knows watching this channel, but this is my first book. My first book is titled Under the Cherry Moon. This book came out in 2006. The importance of this book is because I interviewed over 60 strippers before I wrote this book. I interviewed 60 women that worked at one point in time as an exotic dancer, right? And what I learned from that, I was college and I just finished undergrad at that time. And I learned that most of the women that I was talking to, that I was so, impressed at the fact that they could, lead this life that a lot of women think, oh, that's got to be so powerful. And that has to, why are they doing that? There's curiosity mixed with admiration in some points and all that. You think that these women have this magical hold over men. So many, I would say 85% of the women that I interviewed had acknowledged to me in one-on-one interviews that they had undergone some type of sexual abuse, sexual abuse in some way, whether it was actual being raped or being touched, incest in their families, heartbreaking stories, right? So when you talk to men and they're like, oh, well, this girl just wants to do this. She's okay with it. And then you hear someone like a Da'Naia saying, because of me being a rape victim, I was very sensitive to knowing when he had been with someone else. Number one, I think there is an intuition that all women have if you're in touch with yourself. And number two, a lot of times the reason that we're so open as women to doing things that are outside of our character, be it having a threesome or be it sleeping with someone when we're not ready or doing things physically that we don't feel comfortable with, a lot of that is because there has been sexual trauma, sexual abuse, and we have not healed from that. And we don't know how to handle that. And so it's a familiar place. And it feels like that's all you can can't escape that. And I think we're going to talk about it. I'm just going to be honest. I am tired of us dancing around the issues. The reality is, yes, we are living in an era of sexual freedom where a lot of women feel they are empowered by their sexuality, but a lot of it is not empowerment. A lot of it is just unhealed trauma, right? That has no place to go. And when unhealed trauma has no place to go, it shows up as being oversexed. It shows up as being sexually fluid. It shows up as being free and open and not caring. But the reality is those women don't necessarily feel like that. And they are suffering in silence. And as a culture, we are giving a hand clap to things that don't make any sense. I remember watching about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we listened to Carisha talk about how she likes guys to pee on her. She likes golden showers, and they were laughing about it. And everybody thought that was great, and it was going viral. But I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember prior to that, Carisha had a conversation with Meg Thee Stallion, and she said, for me, I don't always really enjoy sex with men. I really am more free with sex with women. Well, anyone that has any amount of common sense can see that that is a problem. Like, if you don't enjoy sex with men that much, why are you talking about it? Why are you saying that you enjoy golden showers, a lot of us are doing this because we feel like this is what makes us attractive. This is how we become accepted. I'm not saying that Carisha does not like golden showers, but I'm saying what she said initially with Meg Thee Stallion and then what she said later did not necessarily align. And as a younger woman, maybe she doesn't even realize that. But there are so many women that are looking at sex as transactional. There are so many women that are looking at sex as something that they have to do in order to get acceptance. It is not healthy, and it does not lead to positive relationships. And so if I get beat up for saying this, I'm fine with it because it's the truth. I have interviewed and talked to so many women that behind all that, I do this, I do that, I know how to do this to a man, I'm a 10. If you on a freaky scale from 1 to 10, I'm a 12, I'm 1,000. And then you have a one-on-one conversation with these women, and you hear that when they were younger, they were touched. You hear that they were taught that there's nothing about them that was special besides what they were able to do for a man in the bed. And I'm saying to everyone out there, that is not the way that we need to be loving. That is not the way that we need to be expressing intimacy. It's not healthy. It has nothing to do with feeling sexually free. If you are healthy and you know who you are and you enjoy certain things, kudos to you. But if you are not enjoying sex in a positive way, you are using it to leverage yourself into certain relationships, that's not a healthy situation with sex. And it leads to women doing things like Da'Naia Jaxn, allowing your husband to have multiple relationships with women. You guys listen to this interview that Lateris did. It is, it was interesting watching a man do that interview because he's laughing, he's having a good time. And I like him very much. Interviewed him on the red carpet for Comministry. But I wondered afterwards what their conversation was like, because that young woman needs sisters rallying around her. Someone asked in the comments, where was her family during that time? But you guys know that often when you get married, the Bible says you leave your family and cleave to your husband. And for a person like Derrick Jaxn, he's very good with words. So of course, she's thinking, I want to be a good wife. I've got to focus on my husband. I've got to do what I need to do for him. And that's where he was able to be manipulative, and he was able to keep her in a situation where she felt bound to that marriage, even though he wasn't bound to it, which is actually not biblical. Actually, that part is not biblical. There is another piece of that interview. You guys have to watch that interview, but there's another piece of that interview where she says that she was watching videos of him having sex with other women, trying to figure out what they were doing so that she could do that to him and that he would enjoy her. And when I heard her say that, my heart just broke. My heart just broke because there's so many women that are saying, I'm okay with him being with other women. I'm okay if he wants to do that. And the reality is, sis, you're not really okay with it. You're saying it to be accepted because you don't want to look like you're mentally weak. But the reality is, it is destroying you internally. It is destroying you internally. And just like we saw Da'Naia sitting next to him in that bonnet, and then later we see her saying that it was tearing her, it was eating her up inside, that she had all these images in her head of her husband having sexual relationships with other women, were eating her apart, tearing away at her self-esteem. It's beyond hurtful. And so like I said, I can't take anymore. I wanted to talk about it. And I had to talk about it before Married at First Sight. So if you guys are just tuning in, this is Christal Jordan. We're having a realistic conversation today about the Da'Naia Jaxn interview with Lateris Whitfield from Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm a fan of Lateris. I think he did a great job with this interview, just allowing her to be 100% candid and for us to be able to see a healed Da'Naia. I think she still has a ways to go with healing because that's a lot of trauma to endure. But I appreciate the fact that she was strong enough to share that, because there are so many women out here dealing with this. Yes, Success Is Mine says she was broken and her husband was taking advantage of her. He was absolutely taking advantage of her. And there are so many women that have been through trauma, that have been molested, that have been sexually abused, that have been domestically abused, and they get with a man, and that man is able to play on the fact that that woman is vulnerable and broken, and he's able to get her to do things that she normally would not do. I, again, am doubling down from my perspective on the Harley Initiated podcast, where I said, women should not do anything that they are not comfortable doing, right? If you are not a bisexual woman, why are you participating in threesomes and foursomes with a man to try to keep him, to try to get him to love you? That is not love. That is not love. We have confused attention and I don't know if it's acceptance with love. Attention from a man and his immediate attention, because it's not long term, is not anything that you should be giving up your own sense of self for. Because at the end of the day, you came into this world alone and you will leave this world alone. And if you betray yourself, those scars are going to last much longer than the absence of a man in your life. And I just, like I said, I know this opinion is unpopular. People ate me up after saying, women shouldn't have threesomes and, trying to up your sex game. It would get you a lot of attention, but a marriage and a husband is based on understanding that a marriage is based on mutual respect. Yes, sex is a big part of it, but if you're not able to really enjoy sex without doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, how can you have a healthy sex life with your husband? It just doesn't make any sense. I want to play another clip from this interview. Again, if you are just watching, I am talking about the interview with Laterris Whitfield and Da'Naia Jaxn, who is the former wife of Derrick Jaxn. They just did a very informative interview on his Dear Future Wifey podcast, where Da'Naia was just very honest and candid about what she was going through, very different than the Da'Naia that we met a few years ago, sitting next to Derrick, looking like we wanted to tell her to blink twice if she was okay. Well, she said she was okay, because you guys know, as women of color, we are strong. We are going to persevere. We're going to sit there and act like we're good, when inside she was broken and she was not okay. And my thing is, as women, we have to be able to recognize those signs and stop being so hard on each other and stop being so quick to throw stones and to put another woman down, because putting another woman down should not make you feel better about yourself. In fact, if you have to put another woman down to feel better about yourself, sis, I would suggest there's something wrong with you. So I'm going to play this clip because, again, this is another clip that really broke my heart. Listening to Da'Naia talk about what happened to her after it was revealed what her husband was doing to her, and she agreed to sit down with him and make a public statement.
And social media had this way of trying to make you look like you crazy.
Yes.
And when I met you, I talked to you, I was like, this girl, not only is she not crazy, she's absolutely brilliant. So
wow.
What was that? What was that about?
Well, I think the world did not see me for so many years, so they have nothing to go off of.
Facts.
And so they're seeing me for the first time when all of this crazy stuff is going on. And then I'm sitting up here talking about Jesus, talking about a helmet of salvation. So it's like, oh, she has lost her mind. She is
cuckoo for Cocoa
right.
Puffs.
And I'm like, I'm saying I have a sound mind, and I know what's going on right now because I've been delving into the word. I'm discerning the time that I'm in from a spiritual state, and
right.
Now I'm trying to protect what sanity I do have with the word of God. So I think that's kind of what fueled all of that.
All right, so you guys, that was Da'Naia Jaxn sitting down with Laterris Whitfield talking about what happened after she came out with Derrick a few years ago, when it was first revealed that he was having multiple affairs. Later on in that conversation, she says that from the time they met, he was cheating on her before they got married. And from the time they met, he had slept with over 100 women outside of her. Now, I don't know how many were during the marriage, and they have 2 children, but it was a lot. She said that she would pass women leaving his room when she was coming there, and she just accepted it. But my thing today, I'm talking about, if you guys are just joining, we're having a conversation just about what women accept and what they often put up with. A lot of times women are loud and talking so much about what they won't do, and what they're actually accepting behind closed doors is something very different. And I don't think it's a place, I don't think that we should be putting each other down. This broadcast, this conversation is not to put women down. It's really to empower us and say, sis, you don't have to do that. That is not what love feels like. That is not what security feels like. A man should come into your life and make you feel secure, make you feel loved, make you feel valued, not make you feel like you have to betray yourself in order to stay with him. Ron, for him to say he thought she was brilliant was a stretch. I don't agree. I think that she probably is a very smart woman. What was clear to me about Da'Naia is that she knew a lot about the Word of God. She was probably brought up in a very, very religious family. I can relate to that myself. I was brought up in a very religious family. A lot of us were, because back in the day, most of our families had little to rely on and to uplift them outside of religion, right? And that's where we focused. The hope was focused on God and religion, and it's very different than it is now. But I think that's really sad that when we hear someone speaking about wanting to do the right thing, we tend to think that they're stupid, or we tend to think that they're weak. What we should think is that a person like Derrick that would take advantage of someone like that is stupid and weak, because for him to see a woman that has had his children and is willing to support him at her own demise should prove to him that she is an amazing woman. And how dare him treat her that way? We need to reverse the way we look at strength and the way we look at and the way we admire people on social media. I'm talking. If you guys have not subscribed, please subscribe and like this broadcast. You guys know I've decided. I said I was doubling down on my conversation because I got such negative feedback after saying that women shouldn't do things sexually they're uncomfortable with. And I decided after seeing that, I was like, I just have to be honest to myself and be true to me. And if that doesn't gel with a huge audience, I'm okay with that. Because I know that what I'm saying, I'm supposed to say. I have this channel because I know that there's a message and there's other women that need to hear that. It's part of the reason that I wrote this book, Dear Alpha Female, It's Not Him, It's You. And it's really about the fact that as women, we're taught that what we want does not matter. Now, a lot of times what we're focusing on for what we want is not what we really need. Like, she didn't need a man that was, Derrick is like 6'2" plus. He's built, he's a good looking guy, and he's got money. And he was the worst thing for Da'Naia Jaxn in the world. So a lot of times, focusing on the things that we think are important are actually the opposite of what are important for us. Brandon says, being pliable for a maniac does not make her a great woman. I'm not saying that being pliable made her a great woman. I'm saying that she was committed to her marriage, and you have to respect that. That doesn't make her weak. It means that she was taken advantage of. But the fact that she was actually trying to be a woman of value and actually be committed to her husband is not something that I think is a negative trait. I think it's a good trait. It just was in the hands of the wrong man. And a good man would have appreciated that. An idiot would not. And so she obviously was with the wrong man. But a good man would appreciate and recognize a good woman. I think a lot of times as women, we don't know how to identify a good man. And so we're trying to bend ourselves into spaces to please and be accepted by a man that's not worthy of who we are anyway. I have no idea, Caramel Foxes, why are people finding so much fault in her? I don't know. But that's why I wanted to come on here today and say, because every woman I know has been a fool for a man at one point in time. Probably men have had the same experience with women. I'm just not a man, so I don't know. But I do know that every woman, self included, has done some things for a man that she should not have done. But that's also why, when I went on Iyanla, and I wanted to show, I have this plaque that she gave me titled The Healer. I've got to add that to my background just to encourage me when I'm doing this, to remind me of why I'm doing this. But I think it's up to us as women that know better to share and uplift and empower younger women, right? Because she was very young and misguided. The girlfriend I had that said to me, Christal, if I don't have a threesome with my boyfriend, he's going to leave me, was a younger woman. And I told her the honest truth. I said, he's going to leave you anyway. Well, she actually went ahead and had a threesome with him. And guess what, guys? He left her anyway. So I again, this is not to say that if you are into certain types of sex or certain types of threesomes or group sex or whatever, if you're into that, that's fine. I am speaking to the women that are internally dealing with things they really don't want to deal with and are afraid to acknowledge it, and it is eating you apart. There is nothing that can damage your own self-esteem like playing yourself for someone else. That is the biggest way to destroy your own sense of self. And as women, I feel like we have a responsibility to talk, lead, nurture, and guide other women so that they know that they don't have to do that. A good man is not going to require you to do anything that is not in alignment with who you are. And if so, that's not the man for you. So I just wanted to come on and share that. Now, I also want to get into, this is a hard pivot because I want to talk about Married at First Sight. I'm talking about everything from the perspective of an alpha female. You guys know that is the title of my book. And please order your copy. If you have not ordered your copy, they are available on Barnes and Noble. They are available at Walmart. It is available on Amazon.com. I put that across the bottom so you guys can see that. Please make sure that you pick up your copy of the book. If you are in Atlanta and you want to get out tonight, I think it's Thursday, it's kind of the kickoff for Memorial Day weekend. I am going to be at Sea Salt restaurant here in Atlanta tonight around 7 o'clock, and it is free. Come out. You can reserve your spot at Open Table, and I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the address for that in 2 seconds. Hold on. Give you guys the address for tonight, because if you're able to come out, I am giving away free copies, 5 free copies of the book to the first 5 people that come up and can show me they are a subscriber of this YouTube channel. I will sign a copy of this book and get it to you. And you'll be able to dial in during conversations like this and, give your feedback. But we're going to be at 1044 Greenwood Avenue Northeast in Atlanta, Georgia. Again, I'm going to put that in the comments here. We will be at 1044. You guys, I'm sorry to keep typing while we're talking, but I want to make sure anybody that is watching that wants to come out can go ahead and come. I love meeting people that watch the channel. We have great conversations. And so I am giving you a personal invitation to come out. If you're in Atlanta and you don't have anything going on tonight and you can swing by, please come out. Sea Salt is an amazing seafood restaurant. It's Black owned. And I'm excited to be there tonight from around 7 to around 10:30, 11 o'clock tonight. So come out, have some good food, let me know that you're a subscriber. Let me know what you think. And like I said, the first 5, I'm giving a free copy of Dear Alpha Female. It's not him, it's you. This book is a love letter wrapped in accountability to career women that want to experience real love in their life. It is a interactive devotional designed to help you attract the love you deserve. Real stuff, not that other stuff. Nobody deserves to be with somebody that is cheating on them and making them instructing them to watch videos of them having sex with other women so that they know how to please them. If you guys remember, R. Kelly was doing that. So I'm glad that Da'Naia has gotten away from Derrick. I'm really concerned about all of Derrick's continued followers because I'm not saying that some of the things he says are not right, but once you know a tree by its fruit, and we know the fruit that his tree was bearing. So the fact that there are so many women still diligently supporters of his is very unsettling at the least. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Married at First Sight. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch the finale. The second part of the finale or Decision Day aired yesterday, and this show actually kind of goes along with this conversation because there were 5 couples. Out of the 5 couples, one couple stayed together. That was Chris and Nicole. And I'm happy they stayed together. I think they actually are a good fit. Time will tell if they're actually going to, be able to make it, if they're going to be able to stand the test of time. You never know what happens after Decision Day. 6 months later, it could be kaput. But I like them together. There were a couple of other issues with the other couple. So I'm going to start. So there was Chris and Nicole, Gina and Clint, um, Jasmine and Jasmine and Eris, Shaquille and Kirsten, and Dom and McKinley. And Dom and McKinley actually split up extremely early, probably before the first thing. Yeah, Jay Blake, I agree. There, she says there. I was thinking the same thing. And so I remember there are women who marry and follow serial killers in prison. I just think there are a lot of us who don't have any idea what love is at all. And hopefully conversations like this and others that are happening online can help us to kind of get to a better place. But yes, so let's talk about Married at First Sight. So Dominique and McKinley, Dominique was very young. I think she was 25 years old. I thought that was way too young to be on the show. And she was paired with a guy that, was not living in his own home. And she had a very narrow view of what she felt like she wanted. She also was the only child and probably a little bit spoiled, but that's probably comes along with it's probably par for the course with the only child. But she said she deserved more. She expected more. And she didn't like him, and I think everybody has a right to like who you want. My thing is just when we decide what our likes are based on, and then we get that, then we have to be okay with that, right? So when you decide what's most important to you is money and looks and status, then you have to be okay when you're living with that. And that may not be what happens. I mean, in the situation with Da'Naia Jaxn, like we just talked about, those good looks, that money, and that status definitely did not do anything for her well-being, and actually ended up being the opposite of that. So when Dom decided she did not like McKinley, I was just like, you know what? I thought she should not have probably been on the show. I thought the experts are probably a little premature in bringing her on, but it was going to end anyway. So I guess it's better to get it over with quickly than to stay on and keep going. Interestingly enough, McKinley, not only child slander, I'm the oldest. Everybody has issues. I saw something online that said that where you are with your siblings tells a lot about who you are, right? And I know for me being the oldest children, I have a little brother, or younger brother. He's not a little brother now, but younger brother. And when we're the oldest, you always feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. We're always trying to boss other people around. My daughter, who is the oldest, my mom and myself both have the same thing. I have a daughter that is the oldest, and then my son is almost 3 years younger than her. Same way with me and my brother. And I still try to boss my brother around, and my daughter tries to boss her brother around. It's just like the oldest child just thinks that everything should go the way they want. But yeah, Dominique was a little spoiled, and McKinley was just, I think he is the type of man that really wanted a woman. He really, really was at the place in his life where he wanted a woman. I don't know what type of woman that he is interested in. It's interesting that he mentioned that he was attracted to Gina. And you guys remember Gina said she was not attracted to her husband, Clint, which I thought was weird because I thought Clint was attractive for a white guy, as a white guy. And I thought she's attractive. I thought they might look cute together. But neither one of them were attracted together. I think Clint was kind of attracted to Gina. He just didn't want to acknowledge that because she had already said she wasn't attracted to him. Yes, Lakeisha, Dom's mother did sign her up for the show, which was unsettling because she was not ready. I think as a mother, you want your child to have the best. And maybe the mother thought that this was an opportunity for her to fall in love and actually be on TV, get some hype. But Dominique really was not built for that. If you guys saw, when we finally saw her, because we haven't seen her in so long, we finally saw her, and she just said that it was difficult for her being on the show. She had a lot of anxiety, so she got a dog. Like, this wasn't a good experiment for her, and I don't think she was really ready for it. But we saw that McKinley expressed interest in Gina, and Gina was open to it. Honestly, guys, I can't really see Gina being with McKinley either. I think Gina really she's very, very career driven. She is the ultimate alpha female to me. When I was watching her and she was talking about her job and running her salon and firing people and having to be responsible for staff, I was like, I relate totally to her. She is exactly who this book is about. And I think a lot of times when you have that type of strong professional personality, a lot of times you need a man who's very patient, which is what I got. Number one, very patient. And then number two, kind of someone that's been there, done that, as opposed to someone that's a little less mature. So I don't really see McKinley being a good fit for Gina. I think Gina needs a more seasoned guy that is not going to be, thrown off by her intenseness, right? She's very intense. I think that she needs a man's man. And I'm not saying that McKinley's not that, but I just don't think that he's really ready for he's really, really ready to stand up and take control of the situation the way Gina's probably going to need in order for her to kind of let go of the reins, because she's in total control of her life. She's very much that boss chick that has a lot going on. I really can't see her, being okay with McKinley, who's kind of all over the place. We saw him looking at houses. Interestingly enough, he was looking at houses that were outside of his price range, which suggests to me that it's for the benefit of the show, but it's not realistic. That house he was looking at that house had to be like near, I would say, $700,000 to $1 million house. I don't know that that's a starter home, so I'm not sure, but I just don't see them being a real match. We'll see. We know they're going to go on a date, but I think that's just for the hype. I think that both Gina and Clint hurt each other's feelings. And so I think Gina's open to doing something to kind of prove that she is attractive and that there is someone interested. And I think Clint, everybody wants to get right back out there and find somebody, because the sting of rejection is kind of still there. I totally get it. So moving on, Timo says Shaq made the right decision. Kristen gave that fake yes for sympathy, but we all know they would have divorced off camera anyway if Shaq says yes, because she don't like that man. I'm high-fiving you, Timo. I agree with you 100%. I think that Kirsten is not used to people not kissing her behind. I feel like, hey, Zora, I feel like Kirsten expected, and she even said, like, in her, when they were talking after decision day, like, I gave you grace. Like, I feel like she felt like Shaq should have been, he should have been grateful to have a woman as beautiful as her that gave him a chance. I don't think that she really was into him. She was clear about the fact that, she wanted certain things that he may not have been able to have. And I definitely didn't think they were a good match. So I did another conversation, and you guys, that's on this YouTube channel also, with another person that talks about relationships. His name is Vigilante. And he said that Shaq would be foolish to say yes on decision day because of the scene where Kirsten told him that it was his responsibility to buy her a house. What do you guys think about that? Did you guys have an issue with that conversation? I felt like it just showed that she was a little immature. I do think that, a man's responsibility is to provide, right? Provide and protect. And I think Shaquille would have done that. But I think saying you got to buy me a house, it just felt kind of immature, right? And she's a real estate agent. If anything, she should have the hookup on how to get the best house. She should know. She should have intel. She should. I think that's just kind of weird for her to say, especially since they don't have children. But I think she wants something that she did not feel like Shaq had the ability to provide. I do think that Shaq needs to work on himself a little bit more. I don't think he's really ready for a wife, honestly. I really don't. I feel like Shaq has some other things going on with him, and I don't feel like he was ready for a wife either. I think he's a good guy, but no, I don't think he would have been ready for that. But it's interesting to see how Kirsten acted. Did you guys see that we see this very, very proper Kirsten this entire season? And then when Shaq said no, she did not want to be at the house with him. She was flipping off the cameras, which I was just like, whoa, what Kirsten is this? She was cursing in her confessional. Like, there's another side to Kirsten. Still waters run deep. and that other side came out when she did not get her way. I was like, oh, that's another side that we didn't see all season long. Hey, Edna, welcome to the chat. Of course, we are talking about Married at First Sight. Girl, we got all into the conversation about Derrick Jaxn's ex-wife, Da'Naia Jaxn, and her conversation with Lateris Whitfield from Dear Future Wifey podcast. If you guys are just joining, make sure you go back and listen to the beginning of that episode, of this episode, because it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So I thought it was interesting that Kirsten all of a sudden was cursing. She had this really like spoiled child attitude and was not okay. I thought that's probably the real Kirsten, and she's kind of spoiled. Success is mine. Said she wanted stories to tell her friends. My husband bought me a car or a house. I think a lot of women want those stories, and I think that a lot of women don't realize that's not really what marriage is about either. It's not about, freaky sex. I mean, all these things are a part of it, but that's not at the basis of it every day. Freaky sex and your husband buying you a bunch of things are not what's happening on a day-to-day basis. You got to be willing to put in, you got to be willing to work at it as well. If he's paying all the bills, what are you doing? How are you supporting him? How are you balancing that out? And I think a lot of times women just feel like I'm supposed to show up, and because I'm pretty, he's supposed to worship me. Well, that's not realistic. That is not real. That's not real life. That's not even a Disney movie, So I think Kirsten has some more growing up to do. I think she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And I think she's got some good foundation, but there's a lot of growth that needs to happen there. And I also don't feel like we really saw the real Kristen. I feel like she wasn't attracted to Shaq. That was not going to change. And I also feel like she didn't really respect him. So I'm glad that he did the right thing and said no. And she'll get over it. It'll be fine. And we'll see what happens. I don't think she should hold her breath on selling McKinley a house, because I don't know if he's ready for that either. But, anyway, moving on. I want to talk about Eris and Jasmine, because this relationship, when I say, first of all, kudos to Jasmine for not accepting less. And I don't know very many women that would have been able to be classy hearing a man tell them that he's not attracted to her. That is a very hurtful thing. He doubled down on it several times. And again, in yesterday's Decision Day Part 2, again, he mentioned that he was not attracted to her. But for her to stay in it, knowing that, and hearing that, and not to show him an ugly side, I got to give her a lot of props. That is a lot of strength. And that actually shows how strong she is. Eris made a lot of comments about her not having self-love, which I thought was kind of off-putting and misguided, considering he was telling her that he wasn't attracted to her and she was still treating him with grace and kindness. That is not the response that most women would have given someone that speaks to them that way. I thought that was interesting. I think that the opposite is true. I think actually Jasmine has a lot of self-love and a lot of self-esteem. I think that it's normal to want a partner to be attracted to you. So you could see that she was a little shaken, but that's normal. Anybody would be. Nobody would want to be. I have never seen a woman in all the history of Married at First Sight that has been able to respond that way when they weren't attracted to them. And very rarely does that happen. I mean, Jasmine's obviously a beautiful woman. She's a beauty, contestant. She's a beauty queen, right? So she's definitely by the standards of beauty. Now, maybe Eris wasn't attracted to her. That's his personal. Everybody has a right to being attracted to what works for them personally. But I just think when you come on Married at First Sight, you must be open to the fact that you may not initially be physically attracted to the person. I know that men don't necessarily change and it starts there, but why would you come on Married at First Sight when you know there's a huge possibility, it's a 50-50 chance that you may not be attracted to your partner? And for him to not open up and to treat her the way he did, it was really it was disappointing. For him to say he wasn't attracted to her, but then also ask her about sexual positions and things like that. I was just like, that's weird. And I'm glad that she did not give in and try to, try to go ahead and be sexual with him. She realized her worth. She realized that if she had a slept with him, the same result would have happened. We see that Kirsten and Shaq slept together and the same thing happened. She still didn't start liking him. I think she felt a little bit differently towards him because of it being that. But I don't think it would have changed. And so kudos to her for not doing that. Casey says you think it was all those dogs. I don't think it was the dogs. I think from the very beginning, Eris said he told her on the honeymoon he was not attracted to her. He said that last night. So I don't know, and then what he also contradicted himself when he sat down with Jamel on the after party, because he said, and even in the scene where he was talking to his roommate's girlfriend, and he said what made him not attracted to Jasmine was the fact that she wasn't curvy. She wasn't thick. He usually likes, women with a little bit more curves. But then he said he was open for skinny women, tall women, short women. Like he doesn't. So I don't really know. I think Eris is not ready to get married. Anyone who is 39 and has never been in love, I would be concerned about their readiness to get married, because he doesn't even know what it feels like to be in love. So I'm not saying that he doesn't want to get married. I'm sure he does, but I don't know if he understands the reality of what it feels like to actually care about someone. When he said that, he missed her and he got used to her being there, but he still wouldn't connect with her. He still didn't have real feelings for her. I think Eris is blocked, and there's probably things going on with him that we have no idea that he wasn't able to get into, because even though he backed off a little bit, you could tell he's still very, 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 very guarded. Also, we saw his cousin in the beginning that was constantly saying, throwing stones at Jasmine and saying that Eris wasn't ready. Well, I think there's something else there that the cousin probably knows that's going on with Eris. He's not. And even his roommate, told him last night that you have a habit of, as soon as things start to get serious, you run. So when you're in a situation where you can't run because you're on Married at First Sight, I think it was easy for him to put up blocks so that she could penetrate it and he was still safe, right? It's fear. It's something else. Maybe he's not really attracted to her, but the fact that the very thing that he said he wasn't attracted to, he now says he's open to dating, is really weird. That's really weird. I think Jasmine was a stand-up. Her character is amazing. If anyone on here knows her or talks to her, please share this for her. I thought she did an amazing job of handling herself with grace. I don't know if I would have been able to stay in a situation with someone all the way to decision day that told me on the honeymoon they were not attracted to me. That would be hurtful, and she did it with class. And so I don't think you get any further into having a good sense of self, than that. So I wish her the best. I hope she doesn't jump into something fast just to prove, because that's what so many people do. They're trying to prove I am attractive and there's nothing wrong with me. So they try to get into a relationship. And that's the worst thing that you can do. The best thing that you can do is keep doing you and keep your standards high, but not unrealistic. And the right one will come along, because she's very deserving of love. She's got so much going for her. And hopefully Eris will figure out what's going on with him, because for him to be at that age and be a handsome guy, had a lot of friends and has never experienced love, it's definitely not the women, it's definitely him. Actually, in most situations, it's not anyone else but ourselves. Whatever you are dealing with in your life that has been a consistent issue for you, it is not others, it is you. And as hard of a pill as that is to swallow, it's just the truth. So I'm glad this season came to an end. I was not a really big fan of this season because I feel like there were so many couples that just weren't, number one, the physical attraction wasn't there. So I think this is the opportunity for the experts to really figure something else out. I also did not like the fact that Pastor Chris and Dr. Pepper were not more involved. I don't know where the other doctor and Devon Franklin went, but I'm over them at this point. We just need to get new experts in. They're obviously not going to be an ongoing part of the show because we didn't see them again. So I don't know what that's about. You guys let me know what you think. We did not see anything from Devon Franklin. Or I don't even remember what the other expert's name was. It's a very attractive lady. But yeah, we haven't got to know them. They did not show up. They were not involved in the couples as they're trying to work through the situation. Even Chris and Nicole could have used some additional counseling along the way. So I hope that will change. I hope that Married at First Sight does like a reboot and make some changes, because I think basically putting people out there in a situation where they can both damage themselves, when there's not proper coaching or counseling or therapy along the way, that's got to do something to your self-esteem, right? So I just think that's kind of irresponsible. It is television, it is entertainment, but that show actually I give more kudos and credit to than some of the other reality shows that are based on relationships, because it feels like the experts truly want to help them. I really like Pastor Cal a lot. I really like, I like Pastor Cal, like Dr. Pepper, but I just feel like they don't do enough with the engagement. So we'll see what the next season looks like. I believe the next season is coming soon. There's still some more that we're going to talk about from this season. Brenda and I hopefully will get a chance to wrap everything up once we see the reunion for this season. I can't wait to hear what happened. Did Gina and McKinley did they actually go out with their love connection? Can't imagine that. Dom and Clint, like, absolutely not. No. And, as much as I want to see Jasmine happy, I hope she doesn't rush something just so that she can have somebody that she's talking to at the reunion, because I think that rarely works when you're trying to prove something. But hopefully Eris will come back and realize that there was a lot he did that prohibited him from even being able to say that he truly was, ready for a potential relationship if he had been attracted to Jasmine. So anyway, that is my wrap up. Again, shouts out to Latarius Whitfield with Dear Future Wifey podcast for an amazing conversation with Da'Naia Jaxn, and all my love and light to Da'Naia. I hope that she's in therapy. I hope that she has a strong sister circle around her. And thanks to you guys for watching and hanging out with me today. I hope that you are subscribed. I hope that you guys are liking and sharing this conversation, because I think that it can help a lot of women. Shouts out to the guys on Harley Initiated Podcast for having me on. Even though Instagram roasted me, I appreciate them giving me a chance to come by and share what I had to say. And, and for some people to hear it on YouTube, I think people enjoy that conversation. You can hear that entire conversation on the Harley Initiated Podcast YouTube channel. And lastly, if you're in Atlanta, come out and hang out with me tonight. I'm going to have copies of the book. Dear Alpha Female, It's Not Him, It's You. We're going to be at Seesaw ATL, which is at 1044 Greenwood Avenue here in Atlanta, Georgia. Can't wait to meet you guys if you have time to come out, if you are in Atlanta. If you're not in Atlanta, don't fear. You can get your copy online. You can go to Amazon.com. You can go to BarnesandNoble.com. You can also go to Walmart.com. And I will be announcing some cities I'm going to be coming to on a book tour really soon. We're working with Barnes and Noble to get on the road and out there so that I can actually talk to more of you guys, meet you, and share the book. So again, thanks for hanging out. I have a conversation coming on Monday that I'm super excited about on mental health. And it is a recap or a review of Queen Charlotte, which is on Netflix. So if you have not watched Queen Charlotte, watch it over the weekend and come hang out with me Monday at 7 p.m. as we do a review on Queen Charlotte and talk about mental health issues as it relates to love and relationships in the Black community. I love you guys as always for watching. Have a beautiful Memorial Day weekend, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys tonight at Seesaw. All right, bye-bye. Make sure you leave your comments and like, share, and subscribe. I love you all for watching. Bye-bye.